Do you have, any of you have any doubt that it was Russia and Russian agents that perpetrated during the 2016 presidential campaign the hacks of the DNC and the arrest emails and the misinformation and disinformation campaign that took place during the election? And a short answer will do. Do any of you have any doubt that it was Russia?
Yeah, I think all my expertise.
Microphone.
Basically, from the observables we get at the victim sites, you can't always connect the dots. We can't show you a picture of a building. We can't give you a list of names of people who did it. We have to look at a lot of other factors, some of which is incredible amounts of detail. But we've got 10 years of observation here. We've seen similar behaviors in the past. My best answer is it absolutely stretches credulity to think they were not involved.
General Alexander?
I believe they were involved.
Dr. Reed?
I believe they were involved as well.
Thank you. It has been reported that some of the techniques, and I say with my good friend Richard Burr, I used to be technologically savvy up until about year 2000, 2001, which still puts me a decade ahead of some of my colleagues. But it's been reported in the press and elsewhere that by using the internet trolls and then the botnets and that exponential ability then to kind of flood the zone, that in the misinformation and disinformation campaign, the Russians were able to flood the zone, actually not in a broad based across the whole country, but literally target it down to precinct levels in certain states. Is that capable to do if you could have the botnet network that would, in effect, put out misinformation or disinformation and all of the other accessory sites that would then, gang up on that and target that down to geographic locations?
I think it's technically possible. I don't know that you have, that I have enough information to say that was done at each one of those locations, but I think it's technically possible. And, if you put enough people on it, yes, you could do that.
Dr. Reed or Kevin?
It's very technically possible. May I just make an important distinction here between a botnet, usually remotely controlling somebody's computing resources and machine, and bots, that is fake Twitter accounts that are automated.
But they both have the effect, whether it's in somebody's campaign, somebody's computer that is accessed, or fake Twitter accounts, bots, they still have the same effect of pushing a news story higher on a news feed, for example, a Twitter news feed or a Facebook news feed.
That is mostly done by bots within social media networks. That can be any social media network. Botnets are usually used for different purposes.
Kevin, do you want to?
Yeah, it's peeling back the question. There's a couple of things. I think you can always try to get public perception to go certain ways based on the results of Google searches and things like that, and you can automate ways to up-level people's attention to things with all the social media. The good news is during the election, a lot of states had the foresight to let's do shields up and let's be very diligent. Let's watch all the cyber traffic we can. And we didn't see any evidence, at least in the DDoS side or distributed denial of service attacks or attacks. We didn't see anything that harmed the actual election process.
But that was not the question. But the question of targeting in. So here's the last question, and it just, I've heard, and it's been reported, that part of the misinformation, disinformation campaign that was launched in 3 key states: Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And it was launched, interestingly enough, not to reinforce Trump voters to go out, but actually targeted at potential Clinton voters with misinformation in the last week, where they were not suddenly reading, if they got their news from Facebook or Twitter, Clinton and Trump back and forth, but stories about Clinton being sick and other things. And I guess my final point here is, and this may be beyond anybody's expertise, my understanding is the Russians, while they're very good at some of this technology piece, they might not have been so good at being able to target to a precinct level American political turnout, that would mean they might be actually receiving some information or alliance from some American political expertise to be able to figure out where to focus these efforts.
I haven't seen a detailed analysis of precinct-level targeting that would be good enough to substantiate this assumption. But this relates to a more fundamental problem. An entire group of actors, and some completely legitimate within the campaign, were taking advantage of social media. So it's really difficult to distinguish for researchers after the fact what actually is a fake account and what is a real account. Ultimately, we need the cooperation of some of the social media companies to give us heuristics and visibility into the data that only they have.
You know, I would take it a step higher. Senator, I think what they were trying to do is to drive a wedge within the Democratic Party between the Clinton group and the Sanders group, and then within our nation between Republicans and Democrats. And I think what that does is it drives us further apart. It's in their best interest, and we see that elsewhere. I'm not sure I could zone it down to a specific precinct, but I think what we would expect is for them to create divisions within our own framework, destroy our unity. And you can see we're actually, if you look back over the last year, we didn't need a lot of help in some of those areas. And so now the question is, and where I think you have the opportunity, is how do we build